It's one thing to have a muse, a sounding board, but the vision, the spark that turns scribbles into art, that has to come from a single, unified source. Julian's face, projected 20 feet high on the screen behind the podium, was washed out by the glare of the single spotlight. The only sharp thing about him was his smile. The applause from the 400 designers in the ballroom felt like static in my ears. I felt nothing, just a strange, cold clarity. When the process server found him backstage an hour later, I was waiting by the service exit. He stared at me, the thick legal envelope clutched in his hand, his expression a perfect mask of confusion. "I just need you to sign for the delivery," I said. Act 1. We met in a brutalist concrete lecture hall during a graduate seminar on interactive design. Julian was all magnetic energy and grand pronouncements, the kind of person who could sell sand in a desert. I was the quiet one in the back, the one who actually knew how to write the code and build the circuits. He saw my sketchbook after class one day, and his eyes lit up. He said my designs had a soul. We started collaborating over late nights at a sterile 24-hour coffee shop called The Grind, sketching ideas for what would become our flagship project, Aura, on cheap paper napkins. I remember one night, around 3 a.m., we finally got a prototype to work. A cascade of light, soft as watercolor, pulsed in response to my hand waving over it. He didn't touch it. He just watched my face. And he said, "Zara, we're going to change things." That was the perfect memory. The first red flag came a month later. He presented a minor concept of mine, a reactive color algorithm, in a separate class as his own solo work. When I confronted him, he just laughed, slinging an arm around my shoulder. "We're a team, Z. What's yours is mine. What's mine is ours. It's all for the project." His charm was a smokescreen, and I walked right into it, wanting to believe in the we more than I wanted to believe the not in my stomach. Act 2. For the next 2 years, the golden period, Aura was our entire world. We secured a small development grant, which Julian immediately used to rent a trendy co-working space I couldn't afford on my own. I spent my days and nights there, surrounded by the smell of burnt coffee and laser-cut wood, refining the design, writing thousands of lines of code, soldering connections until my fingers were numb. I paid for the specialized LED arrays from Germany, the custom-milled aluminum base, the Raspberry Pi controllers. It came to over $8,000 on my credit cards. Julian handled what he called the narrative. He took meetings, built our social media presence, and networked with a seamless, confident grace. He'd text me from some gallery opening in Chelsea. They love the concept. The cracks began as hairline fractures. He'd present our progress to potential investors, and his language shifted. My work became our work. Then it became my vision executed by a talented technical designer. I rationalized it. He was the showman, I was the engineer. That was the deal. The imbalance grew. He was taking long weekends in the Hamptons, paid for by a consulting gig he'd landed using our portfolio, while I was debugging code for 36 hours straight, fueled by cheap takeout. The discovery was banal, almost stupid. I went to log into our shared Dropbox to upload the final schematics and saw the message, "Your access has been revoked." My blood went cold. I called him. No answer. I texted. Nothing. That night, I used a data recovery program on my own laptop's cache. I found fragments of deleted files. The final submission form for the prestigious Stockholm Design Symposium. Under lead designer, his name, Julian Croft. Under collaborators, my name was listed as a paid assistant. He had submitted our life's work, our shared soul, as his own, and demoted me to a hired hand in the process. My investigation began that night. For 3 silent weeks, I became an archaeologist of our digital life, digging through old hard drives, server logs, and email archives. Every file I unearthed, every time-stamped chat log, widened the scope of his deception. He hadn't just stolen the credit, he had systematically been writing me out of the story from the very beginning. Act 3. The breaking point was the Stockholm Symposium, live-streamed for the world to see. I watched it on my laptop from my tiny apartment. He won the Innovator of the Year award. There were witnesses I knew in that audience, our old mentor, Professor Wallace, reporters from industry blogs like DesignSphere. I watched Julian accept the award, his voice thick with false humility. He thanked his family, his agent, and then he mentioned me. Zara was invaluable in the early stages, a wonderful technician who helped bring the concept to life. But a project of this scale needed a director, a singular vision to guide it. Some people are meant to follow, and that's a vital role too. The world went silent. The polite applause from the crowd sounded like a tidal wave roaring in my ears. In that moment, watching him use my own work to diminish me, the plan wasn't born. It was forged. It was cold, hard, and absolute. And as the camera panned across a video of Aura playing on the screen behind him, I saw it. A tiny, overlooked detail. For half a second, in the polished aluminum base of the prototype, you could see the faint reflection of my calico cat, Milo, sleeping on my desk. An image from a year ago, from my apartment. An image that placed the real work, the real creation, exactly where it belonged. Act 4. The next day, I contacted Miss Vance, an intellectual property lawyer whose name I got from a friend of a friend. She was a quiet, sharp woman in her late 50s, with zero patience for theatrics. Her fee was a staggering $15,000 retainer, which I paid for by taking a loan against my car. Ms. Vance listened to my story for an hour without interruption, her expression unreadable. When I finished, she simply said, "Good, you have records." My preparation was meticulous. We spent 2 months building the case. There was one close call. Julian called me, his voice oozing concern. "Hey Z, I heard you were talking to lawyers. Don't make this messy. It'll just hurt your reputation before you even have one." I almost wavered. The threat of being blacklisted in our small industry felt terrifyingly real. But Ms. Vance's voice on the phone later that day was like steel. "Let him think you're scared. His arrogance is our greatest asset." The evidence was undeniable. 7 key pieces. 1. My original time-stamped Adobe Illustrator files from 6 months before we even signed a collaboration agreement. 2. 27 text messages where he explicitly said things like, "You handle the tech, I'll do the talking." 3. Transaction records for $8,240 worth of specialized hardware, all from my bank account. 4. The deleted symposium submission form. 5. A sworn affidavit from my university's IT administrator confirming the creation dates of the original project files on my student server. 6. The ironic coincidence that became our smoking gun. A folder of 43 photos of my cat, Milo, sleeping on or near the Aura prototype on my desk, all with embedded metadata proving date and location. 7. A one-party consent recording of a Zoom call where Julian said, "Just get the technical draft done. I'll handle the story for the investors." The trap was simple. Ms. Vance sent Julian's new high-powered lawyer a standard low-threat cease and desist letter. His lawyer replied with a condescending 8-page dismissal, formally asserting Julian Croft's sole and exclusive authorship of the Aura project. Act 6. The fallout was immediate and catastrophic for him. Faced with a fraud lawsuit he couldn't possibly win, Julian settled within 24 hours. The terms were brutal. He had to issue a public retraction on all social media platforms and send a formal correction to the Stockholm Symposium, naming me as the project's lead creator and architect. The Innovator of the Year award was officially rescinded. The blog Design Sphere ran a devastating follow-up piece titled Aura's True Architect, the story of a stolen spotlight. The court ordered him to pay me $95,000, representing my share of the grant money, the prize money he'd already received, and punitive damages. His real losses were deeper. His reputation was destroyed. His agency dropped him. The investors pulled out. 6 months later, a friend sent me a screenshot from LinkedIn. Julian was working as a junior graphic designer at a mid-level marketing firm, the kind that makes banner ads for toothpaste. I saw him once from across the street, walking into a drab office building. The visionary, the showman, looked small and gray. I used the settlement money to found my own small studio. It's a quiet, sunlit space downtown. There is peace in my work now, an earned calm that feels better than any victory. I have a small, dedicated team, and our first commissioned piece is being installed next month. Last week, I was a guest on a design podcast. The host asked me what I'd learned about collaboration. I said, "The best work happens when every contribution is honored. A vision isn't a single source, it's a shared light." He thought the art was about a single unified source, and in the end, it was.